Hey guys, Abel here. I guess tradition would dictate that I say, hey guys, Abel here, back with another video, but I think it would be more appropriate to just say, hey, my name is Abel, I'm here with a video, just like that. Well, there is a lot to say. I have taken quite a bit of hiatus from uploading videos, and there is a lot to say as to why that is the case. But first, I would just like to start with the reason I'm recording this video today is not because I have a topic, really. It is because I just need to show up. Because the thing is that I can feel it that if I don't show up like now, but preferably yesterday, but since that's not possible today, then the chances of me doing it tomorrow are gonna be even less, and then the day after even less. I don't know if you have any idea as to how long have I planned to finally post a video and make my return. You don't want to know. Like, the length of time that I just spent planning on posting a new video finally is absurdly long. So much so actually that I had a video recorded, I don't know, a month ago maybe. Like it was a video about my first 5 training programs that I followed and like reviewing them, going over them, what the exercises were and the sets and reps and all of that. It was a pretty good video idea, I thought. But then, I didn't edit it on time, and then like a week passed or something. I've already taken some time off before that, so I started second guessing myself, like, is this video good enough? And so basically it has gotten to a point now to where even just thinking about the idea of posting a video became so overwhelming and stressful that I even started putting that off. And so luckily I had a burst of inspiration, and I just decided today that, you know what, this ends today. So I'm recording this video and just gonna say a few things about what has been going on. So I guess this is my where have I been moment, which I always found very cringe. So I'm not gonna phrase it like that. I'm definitely not gonna title the video like that, but I will say a few words about that. And also gonna say a few words about things that I have learned throughout this hiatus, because there are actually things that I learned, or maybe at least got reminded of, which are sort of valuable life lessons. So I'm just gonna share them because why not? Again, that's not really the purpose of this video. The purpose is just to show up finally and to post something. But if I'm doing that anyway, might as well say some smart stuff, So a couple of words about why the hiatus happened. There are multiple reasons, and you may have even heard me say a few words about that on Dave McConey's podcast. I think it was posted on his channel and not on mine. For example, I mentioned how like I needed to use this as a bit of a reflection time and like think about what the whole process of content creation means to me. I needed to miss it again. Maybe at the time I even believed it to myself that was the real reason for the hiatus. It really wasn't. Now, taking some time off here and there, reflecting on things that you're doing so routinely, making yourself miss certain things more, which now are kind of just part of your regular life and you're kind of not appreciating them anymore as much. Yeah, there is benefit to these things, but simply put, the reason why I took the hiatus is because life was happening and life was happening in a way that just made it very, very difficult for me to create anything, I'm talking about my private life, personal life, of course. So it's the life that I'm usually not talking about on this channel. Although you guys actually know a fair amount about me. Like I actually probably share more than what most people share about their personal lives. I'm not going to be such a peasant. At least I'm going to pour this into a glass. To be honest, I don't necessarily have anything against telling you what it is. Like, I don't think it's that much of a secret or whatever. Like, I would not care if you knew about it, to be honest. But the thing is that I've seen some of these videos where people like tell their audience about things like this, and I always found these videos very cringy. And I kind of just made myself the silent vow that, okay, I don't know what's going to happen in my life and how things are going to turn out, but I'm never making a video like this because this is just cringe as hell. So I guess I'm keeping that promise to myself. Basically, the long story short is that certain things were happening in my life which made my recent years, not just months, incredibly, incredibly more difficult. They took a lot out of me. And I mean, honestly, all of that just culminated in like one big moment one day, which was recently. That culmination resulted in something positive, so I guess it's a happy end to the story or whatever. but at least a happy end. Oh man, knock on wood a billion times, because I just freaked my cat out with this. And the thing is, and the thing that scared me the most is that it's not just about tasks that I put off or obligations that I was delayed with, but it's also about, I felt like, elements of my personality. Like by the end of it, I started to be legitimately scared if I had lost certain things that all contributed to me being me and me being the person that people know me as. Like the lack of creativity and like that lack of desire to create anything, that did not just come about regarding my videos, but I wasn't even thinking about the types of things that I normally think about. Like, I mean, I think if you needed to describe me as a person, I mean, this would be one of the first things that you would mention, that like, yeah, like I think about weird things. Like I have weird ideas, come up with like weird hypotheticals, like what would happen if this would happen. I just stopped doing all of that. And that is really because while I was trying to cope with what I had to cope with, I tried all sorts of strategies. I tried pretending like it's not there. I tried like confronting the issue constantly and like constantly looking for solutions. I also tried basically like brute force overcoming it with self-improvement strategies, like, okay, I'm going to work more and train more and do all kinds of like productive things more than ever before, and that's going to help me overcome it. And just nothing really worked. It felt like this thing was just always dragging me back down. And the final strategy that I tried, which was sort of sadly successful, but also just really, really destructive in other ways, was just numbing myself down. And numbing myself down in a way where I poured myself into activities that like really required all my attention, and I could find some sort of obsession in those activities. I'm talking about video games, to be honest. Let's be real here. I started playing with some games that like really required a lot of concentration and just a lot of mental engagement. And I have to say that this actually did the trick. How good or bad this is, I would say that it definitely had its purpose and it definitely had its benefits. Arguably, by the end of it, it reached a point where it was no longer really productive, and it was sort of just needlessly destructive on its own, independently of other things. There were days and nights where I spent like a number of hours in front of video games, which I'm not particularly proud of admitting. How bad is this? I would say was necessary. I look back at this period and I would say that it absolutely did the job that I needed it for. Now it sort of created other problems, because in the meantime I realized that video games are really, really, really cool. I mean, I had a console in whichever living room I was owning or renting for, I mean, we're closing in on like 20 years at this point, and I never ever became a video game junkie. Like I played with some FIFA, like football or soccer game, and then I would get bored after like an hour, and then I would do something else. But now I got into some of these games, and I mean, some of them are absolutely wonderful. Now I even discovered some of these Souls-like games, and played with Elden Ring. I would rather not say to what level I leveled up in Elden Ring, because like that would sort of give you an idea of how big of a nerd I became. With that said, I have to say that even video games can teach you things about yourself and things about life. I have a lot to say on that. I mean, to be honest, I'm even considering creating a second channel and making a gaming channel, because I find games so fascinating from a number of aspects. One of the aspects I'm going to touch on now very shortly. Also, I really want to get NH, Natural Hypertrophy, on, if he still does podcasts, to talk about video games, because he had a video on why people should quit video games. Really, really good video. I would recommend it. And I think we could have a very interesting conversation about that. Boom, teleported forward in time. My camera died and I went and bought some Diet Coke. So anyways, I was just saying that I think if you're walking around in the world with an open eye, then you can learn some valuable, honestly, life lessons, even from something like a video game. And I have learned some useful things, or at least I got reminded of some very useful lessons and teachings. One of those being that you really cannot even trust yourself, let alone others, when it comes to what you say or what others say about what you want or what they want. Basically, people in general just don't really seem to know what they want. Now, this is something that I was actually taught, or this was told me several times when I was doing my PT certification, that, clients, they say that they prefer this or that, but often they just didn't try something and they don't even really know what they prefer. And I understood that and it made sense to me, but I always found it to be a rather challenging concept to actually apply in the real world. Because like what do you do? Like, let's say you have a new client. By the way, sorry that I'm sweating like a pig. I guess I could, I keep forgetting that we have a beautiful new AC, so I guess I could turn that on. But then I'm going to be cold now, whatever. But isn't it kind of sexy that I'm sweating like this? Let's see the magic. So the thing is, this is something that people often just do in general. Many times we say something that we like things this way, or this is our preference, like this is just the best fit for us. And many times those are just assumptions. And those assumptions are just based on what we already know and what we're already familiar with. Like if you don't actually know any other way, or you've just gotten used to something, then anything else can just seem intimidating. And maybe rightfully so initially. Like anything that's new, unless it's some completely trivial thing, might involve some learning curve. It might involve more challenges. And of course, like at the other end of that, like ideally there's something better that's waiting for you. But the cliche of people would rather often just stay put and keep putting up with the same bullshit than push through some temporary discomfort and actually get something better. That's why people don't break up in a really shitty relationship. Now, how video games reminded me of this. So it's very hard for me to resist telling a long video game story. The very long story short is that I turned out to be completely wrong about the types of games that I thought I preferred. Like, I was so sure that I prefer like whatever types of games, a specific type of game. Basically, it was sword fighting, like hack and slash, and rather easy games, like where I can just run into a crowd of people and like in 30 seconds massacre an entire village. Like that's what I thought I learned. And I wanted those to be rather easy. Like I don't want to die a bunch of times. Like, okay, here and there, it's okay. But yeah, like I want to feel like a badass in the game at all times if possible. And then there were these other types of games which were much, much harder. You're not going to feel like a badass nearly as much. You're going to die a bunch. And in some cases, there are also some annoying things like no pause menu and things like that. And I was like, oh man, like I don't want to play with a game like that. And when it seemed like, well, okay, so if I want to play with a sword fighting game, that's the only thing left. I was actually very upset and very frustrated. And so not only did it turn out that I don't hate those games, but I got hooked on those 10 times as much as I ever could have on those other games that I thought I preferred. And I think there are several useful implications of this, but I think just a very calming lesson is, let's say you are forced into a situation, or like you're left with an option which you really resent. You're not very intimately familiar with that option, but like you heard about it, you see it, like from the looks of it, it does not look like it will be something that you will enjoy. And then it turns out that no, actually, like you love this more than most other things that you tried before. Very closely related, and another useful lesson that I learned is what makes us satisfied, I think, and what makes us happy is the feeling of progressing towards a goal, especially if that goal is through challenges and obstacles that are difficult to overcome. Like, sure, getting that six-pack is great, but knowing that you accomplished it through pushing through that diet and making all those sacrifices, I mean, that is the thing that really makes it sweet. No coincidence, actually, that like so many more people actually stick with a diet than how many people maintain their six-packs. That's not the only reason, by the way. So like this YouTube channel was not here as a joke. Like we talked about this a lot, but this is also part of it. Like, maintaining a six-pack, that's not a process. That's just kind of like an endless thing. But getting to a six-pack, I mean, that is a mission, right? Like in a video game. There's no video game where it's like, okay, here's this endless thing with constantly renewing thing. And like you kill enemies, but they just keep coming back. And you save the princess from the castle, but then immediately a new princess is spawned there and you need to save that as well. Like, no, there's like a beginning and an end. Like that's a mission. And that's what a fat loss diet is. That's what most things are in life that we're after. And it was so predictable in these games that like in like the moment that a game felt trivial, like, okay, I basically like I became so overpowered, I can just like sneeze at enemies and they just die in masses. that was the moment where the minutes of that game were counted. Like, I just did not find it interesting or exciting enough. Even though the irony is that I just cannot resist the temptation when I play a game to actually strive for that. Like, I try to become overpowered for all the enemies. I try to make things easier for myself and like to actually trivialize the game. And as soon as I actually accomplish it, I just lose interest completely. And conversely, the moment that a game starts feeling at one point or another unreasonably difficult or maybe even unfair, like I'm sure those of you who play with games, like, you know, the feeling of like, I cannot believe this is bullshit, like what is this game design, like who the hell designed this level, like a typical gamer like bitching moment or even raging moment at times. The moment that happens, those were the moments that, like, even though I felt like I despised this, but the game immediately became infinitely more addictive and intriguing. And it was not even a question that I'm going to keep going back to it. Even though everything in my brain was telling me that, like, no, like, you hate this. Why? Like this is the moment where you should just say, okay, like, this game is not for me. Not once did I manage to put down a game which had some section or maybe several sections which felt like unreasonably, unfairly difficult. Like those were the most addictive ones. The only games that I just put down were those that became like too easy. Even though I'm not at all one of these like super hardcore gamers that want the hard challenge and like that's what they thrive on. Like, no, I fucking hate the hard challenge. No, give me something easy. Like, I'm so bad at these games. Like, I have like negative talent. But still, I cannot help myself and be drawn to it. So it is kind of fascinating how it works. And I think that once again applies to everything in general. Like, if really you could just get your six-pack like this and everybody could have the killer body, that moment it would stop feeling valuable. Like, the reason a killer body is something that we admire and that like you just cannot help but like you look and you also want it for yourself is because it's rare. Like, not many people walk around with a killer body because it's difficult or you need really good genetics or something special. But just as an average Joe with average effort, you're not going to have that. So yeah, I guess just a valuable reminder once again. Let's cherish the hardship. Let's cherish the challenge. Cherish challenge. If you can say that really quickly 5 times. And I guess one final thing. I'm actually really, really sleep deprived. I'm actually in the middle of a bio clock or a circadian rhythm resetting process. So my brain is not really firing at all cylinders. I want to close with this. Be always very wary of the type of beast that you're feeding or the type of beast that you're creating out of yourself. Always keep in mind that whatever you do and do regularly is going to become some sort of habit that is going to get strengthened and strengthened. Unfortunately, it's often those destructive habits or non-productive habits, at least, that are the easiest to develop. And also, it's kind of shocking, like, at least temporarily, how much some of those old good habits can just vanish. At least that's what it seems like. My God, I keep pushing this glass around. You know, if I had to name in the last 5 years, but actually it's more like 10, like the 2 things that I spent the most amount of time thinking about, worrying about, just obsessing about was fitness and this YouTube channel, honestly. These 2 things were just incredibly, incredibly important to me ever since they have been a big part of my life. The thing is that in this rough phase that I was through now, I've gotten to a point where basically I spent huge chunks of time without thinking about the YouTube channel or about my own like personal fitness at all. Now, that's not good. There were reasons behind it. As I mentioned, I was not trying to avoid thinking about these things. I was trying to avoid thinking about other things, and this was kind of just a side effect. But what ended up happening is that when that thing came to a resolution, so I didn't need the coping mechanism anymore, I still was not thinking about my personal fitness at all or about the YouTube channel. And actually, this was a big realization that I had a few days ago. Like, I went to bed, and as I lay down, that's when it hit me that, like, man, everything that I used to be all about is just not a part of me anymore. Like, what the hell is happening? Am I just not a fitness guy anymore? Like, am I not ssdabelinfo, the YouTuber, anymore? Like, so this is how it's gonna end. It's just like I'm gonna phase it out like some not so successful Tinder date or something. It's like, no, like this cannot be. Like, this is bizarre. And in that moment, I sent a text to my wife, like, hey, like, do you have 10 minutes to chat? And so she came in, and I just said to her that, like, from now on, from tomorrow on, things are going back to how they were. And I'm just saying it to you because I need to say it out loud so that I'm committed to it. So that's what I did. Very glad that I said it out loud, because I do feel a lot more committed than than I was, let's say, like a few weeks ago. So yeah, be very careful with this kind of stuff, because you so quickly change, I wouldn't say your identity, but just the way you start seeing yourself and the types of behaviors and actions that you're expecting of yourself. It's so quick and so insidious, it's actually frightening. So every action is basically one vote casted for a future habit that might be there for you. And not all of those habits are ones that you want. So always be careful. Try to feed the good beast. I almost made another video game analogy on this, or reference, but resisted it. Now, thing is, I'm going to wrap it up because actually my brain is just completely fried. However, since I fully expect that most people are not gonna stay around for this long, because I don't know, probably this video was just not that great, but it was still good to make it. I'm gonna say that the first 5 people who email me on this email address, get a free consultation. Okay, so roughly an hour or so, we can go over a little bit. Whatever topic you're interested in discussing with me, I'm yours for an hour. That sounded very bad. Online, okay, like just talking, but not that kind of talking, okay? So yeah, this is my little celebratory gift or giveaway or something. I'm really happy. Like I just want this video to be on YouTube. No matter how shit it is, I'm gonna upload it. And ssdabelinfo came back, and that would be so good for me, at least. And yeah, first 5 people who email me, free consultation. Let's see who gets there first. So yeah, guys, it's very, very good to be back. Probably I'm gonna ramp up in quality slowly. I'm kind of rusty, but the old ssdabelinfo is coming back, and he will be better than ever. So yeah, see ya.